Baba Shuaib, the correctional officer, born in Accra, Ghana, a Quranic researcher and a critical thinker based on religion, who does online lectures based on the guidance of the Quran on platforms such as Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok since 2018. In Finland, and 13 years, QBE, in Classical Arabic and MSA in Quranic Arabic. The author of the Refer to the Quran, which helps every novice to understand the steps towards understanding the Great Quran and the guidance of God in it.
Time to rise and meet the challenge. Baba Shuaib is calling you out. Meet Baba Shuaib, a correctional officer with a mission. Today he's throwing down the gauntlet to the mushriks, no more holding back. With his logo shirt and cap, Baba Shuaib sits tall and confident. He says, the time for action is now. It's time to rise, to push past limits, and to become the best versions of ourselves. Baba Shuaib believes in the power of determination and resilience. His challenge is simple. Stand up, face your fears, and conquer them. Every day is a new opportunity, he says. An opportunity to grow stronger, to be better, and to leave a mark on the world. So, are you ready to accept Baba Shuaib's challenge? Are you ready to rise above and beyond? Join Baba Shuaib and let's show the world what we're made of, because the only limit is the one you set for yourself.
Live today, yes, inshallah. After here I'll go to TikTok live, right? Yes. Let's hope I'm not tired or something. Yes. So okay, let me do this. Somebody asked me a question concerning division. The person says, why is there division in Islam? Why are people getting divided? Because the person seemed to say the sectarians are divided and so on and so on. And I'm going to use the Quran to show you why division happens, why people divide, why there's division. Is it the way God designed the thing to be or not? So let me quote some few verses to just show you some instances in the Quran why divisions happen, right? It is divisions happen due to knowledge and truth. Knowledge and truth. That is what causes division. It's either the other party hates the truth or they don't have knowledge. So then they hate the knowledge, right? So that is what they do, right? So the question I was asked is that why is there division? And it seems like the Quran alone community is getting divided. No, we are dealing with the hypocrites. We are not getting divided. Even at the time of the Prophet himself, there was division. Remember that. I'll quote verses to back it up. Even at the time of the Prophet, peace be upon him, there was division because some people hate the truth. To give you the gist, you read Quran chapter 8, verse 5 to verse 6, right? Some believers became hypocrites after that because of division. They hated the truth. So when people hate the truth, they don't want to accept the truth. They take a side. That's what causes division, right? Yeah. So I take you to Quran chapter 10, verse 9. Chapter 10, verse, let's say 19, right? Quran chapter 10, verse 19. So I put it on the screen. You see this verse before I move into the main topic, right? Here, let me see. What am I missing here? Yeah, he says, I like how correctional officer doesn't call those from Quran alone who are peaceful and sincere, like Sayyid, Mirza, bad names, but correct them respectfully. Of course, I do respect people's opinion and people's views. I'm not here to attack people. That's not my image. Even when I'm dealing with the mushriks, I'm dealing with them because they are stepping on our toes, right? I don't come here mentioning Al-Musis or mention Hamza Malik or mention people just like that and attack them. I don't do that. Babashuaib, that's not what I'm meant for. When you see me putting somebody on my screen to deal with that person started it first of all. And remember, when somebody slaps you and you have to retaliate, always the retaliation seems bigger than the first initial, what initiated it, right? So Quran chapter 2, verse 190, God says we should not be the aggressors. However, if somebody starts, I have the right to retaliate. Retaliation is allowed, right? So I'm going to strike the hypocrites till they surrender, they give up their hands. I'm serious. They can never, ever disprove the evidences we lay down for them. If they are man enough, let them come out for the dialogue. I don't know if Mega Mind is their superstar now. He came to my TikTok. I said, be a man. Come to my page. He says, no, I'm not coming to your page. Let's do it somewhere else. What are you scared of? With all your Mega Mind, you are scared of Babashuaib's platform. I don't know why he's scared. I told him I can be respectful to him if only he will not insult me. Like the last time. There's no way I will not mute you. You came insulting me on my platform. I'm not offended. I was laughing at you. But if you are going to use the vulgar and profanity, the stupid words you keep using, I will silence you. I'll mute you. But other than that, we can have a respectful dialogue. And I'll make sure you prove. Whatever you say, you have to prove it this time. Last time, I forgave you because of the Quran alone community. I was giving props and respect to some other people. But this time, anybody, I dare you, the following closely people, I dare you. You call me one-on-one. If you are man enough, let's go dialogue and see if you can last for 10 minutes. And you think sitting in front of the masses to speak is a joke, right? I dare you. Okay, so Quran chapter 10, verse 19. God says, and mankind was only one nation and they differed. And if not a word had proceeded from your Lord, it will have been settled between them concerning what they disagreed or differed. So mankind was only one nation. It is similarly repeated in Quran chapter 2, verse 213. Quran chapter 2, verse 213. It is similarly repeated there. So, and mankind was only one nation and they differed. And if not a word had proceeded, that is from your Lord, it will have been settled between them concerning what they disagreed. Then apart from that, I'm taking you to another verse to back this up. So 11:118. In Quran chapter 11, verse 118, it says, and if your Lord had willed, he could have made mankind a single nation. Because he already did that in the beginning. Right? Quran chapter 2, verse 213. Salam, submitted to Allah. He already did that in the beginning. He initiated by making us one group. Right? It was one nation. Yes. So then here it says, and if your Lord had willed, he could have made mankind a single nation, but they will not cease disputing. Mankind will never cease arguing, disputing, differing, having differences. It is impossible not to have differences. Everywhere you go, even in the family, there's a difference. Wherever you go, in the workplace, there's a difference. Everywhere you go for the sake of God. I don't understand. People think we just want to divide for the sake of division. No. Look, when the truth is established, you put your differences aside, you come and hold the hablullah, the rope of God, which is the truth. Because God says, what is there after the truth, if not error? Quran chapter 10, verse 32. فَمَاذَا بَعْدَ الْحَقِّ إِلَّا دَلَالٌ. Can we agree to the truth? If we can agree, what is the fight for? Divisions only happen because people hate the truth. I'm serious. That is why division happened. The ignorant and the arrogant ones among the following closely people, even though I dismantle their argument, I'll put them on, I tell them, call me for a dialogue. They will never call. But look, they will still be saying, oh, following closely, hey, Salat is connection. Yes, that is how arrogant the human being is. Disputing. You give him evidence, he can clearly see it, but yet no. Because since that truth is coming from Babashuaib, no, I hate Babashuaib, so I'm not going to follow the truth. You started a war you cannot finish. I dare you. Okay. So this is why divisions happen, because God is just telling you, mankind will always be disputing. They will not cease arguing. Look, let me open this verse. In Quran chapter 18, verse 54. Here. In Quran chapter 18, verse 54, God says, and we have certainly conducted in this Quran of every example for the people. But the human being is disputing most things. The human being will always argue. I'm serious. See, look, the human being is the most argumentative creature of God. Yes, the human being. Hey, human being. No. Stop. The human being will argue even if he's not standing on the truth. He will argue. So that is the problem with division, right? And when people start telling me, hey, why don't you just come together? We cannot come together with liars. I just exposed the mega mind. You saw how a sort of a liar he is. Are you getting me? Why will the truth mingle with lies? Look, this is what God says. Quran chapter 2, verse 42. This is what God says. God says, وَلَا تَلْبِسُوا الْحَقَّ بِالْبَاطِلِ وَتَكْتُمُوا الْحَقَّ وَأَنْتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ. And do not cover or do not mix. The word talbis is libas, like clothing, to cover something or to mix up, right? So do not mix the truth with falsehood and conceal the truth while you know. What do the following closely people do? They go to every dictionary, then they cast prayer away. Pray, Salah, which is the literal meaning of Salah. They will cast it away. Then they'll go and take the poet. They say following closely. Then now they cast it out. They say connection. It doesn't mean connection. They say connection. This is what falsehood is about. This is what liars do. Are you getting my point? They cast the truth away because they want to cover it, just to invent their own desires. I'm going to expose this guy. At the end of the day, he prays. But he said, hey, Allah, this is following closely, people. Let's go and check this guy. He's praying, he prays. You check the video. I'm going to play his video. That guy is a hypocrite, I keep telling you. Let me play his video for you to see him. The mega mind guy. This guy, check the hypocrites.
What does Salah mean to you?
When you pay Fajr, when you pay Salah, this is our farz, yeah? As a
That's what
Muslim.
we've been taught, yeah.
Yeah, this is farz.
But he doesn't
No,
pray.
that's what you've been taught.
But he doesn't pray.
You pray?
I pray, yes.
The same way as I pray?
Right.
No, me.
Guys, are you watching the same video I'm watching here? Hey, Salam, Mom, I see you. Sister Khadija, I see you. You're welcome. Are you watching the same video I'm watching? Listen to Mega Mind. When he's facing the Sunnis, you see how gentle he is. Over there, go and raise your voice. I see the dirty slaps they will give you. Go and use the MF words you keep using to babashuaib online. Go there, use the BS, use the MF, and the kind of words you think you are a gangster. Go and use it there and see the dirty slaps they will give you. You see how gentle you are there? You're facing them on Hyde Park. Do you see how you are speaking? Check the video.
Okay, what does Salah mean to you?
When you pay Fajr, when you pay Salah, this is our farz, yeah? As a
That's what we've
Muslim.
been taught, yeah.
Yeah, this is farz,
But he
yeah?
doesn't
No,
pray.
that's what you've been taught.
But he
You pray?
doesn't pray.
You pray?
I pray, yes.
The same way as I pray?
Right.
No, me.
You see, when he was facing the mushriks, now they ask him, do you pray? He says, I pray. Yes, I pray. He said, yes, I pray. In Arabic, the word pray is salah. Yes, I pray. Usalli. It means I pray. Usalli. You pray. That's the word in Arabic. Just like in English, we have different words and synonyms for certain particular action. We have what we call supplication. We have invocation. We have imploring. We have prayer. There is a unique word which is only assigned to a particular action. The word salah or salah is the action of to pray. You understand? Literally, to pray. It can have multiple meanings, but the literal meaning is to pray. That's how you say it in Arabic. So what he was saying, if you want to translate it in Arabic, you use the word salah or usalli, that I pray. You see, hypocritically, this guy was facing the mushriks. He says, I pray. Yes, he was. I don't know if he was scared of them or what. We are not telling you to go and pray like the Sunnis. Baba Shuaib never said go and pray like the Sunnis. I'm going to prove the prayer in the Quran today, right now. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying go and pray like the Sunnis. But do you pray? You pray, right? Oh, hey, Mega Man, come and tell us how you pray. Hypocrite. You say, I pray. Yes, you pray. Hey, I thought you don't pray. Hey, you also pray? They're following closely people. And then you are just online lying to people, following closely connection, school session, and whatever session. Hey, Mega Man, what time do you pray? We want to know what time. That's a hypocrisy. But our correctional officer will expose you all. You think it's a joke, right? Keep playing with people's conscience here. Let's go to the main topic. Now, when I take you to Quran chapter 4, verse 26. In Quran chapter 4, verse 26, I put it on the screen. Here. It says, Yuridillahu liyubayyina lakum wa yadiyakum sunanan lazina min qablikum wa yatuba alaykum wallahu alimun hakim. I don't know. Can you see my screen? Yeah. Okay. So God intends to clarify to you and guide you to the examples of those before you and to forgive you. Then he says, and God is what? Omniscient and wise. So the main objective when you are studying the Quran, the main objective you have to understand is God intends to clarify to you and guide you to the examples of those before you. So meaning the prophets, the messengers who came before us, their examples are there so that God will use that to guide us. So we learn. They are our role models. We call them role models. And look, I'll show you the hypocrisy of that guy, Megamind, again. I'm going to show you another hypocrisy. God intends to clarify to you. He used the lakum in plural form, jamu, and guide you, yadiyakum, plural form. Then he said to the examples, sunanan, of those before you, and to forgive you, because we learn from the mistakes of others and fix our own. And God is omniscient and wise. So God is using those before us to explain the guidance for us so that we can be guided. We will not fall in the traps, the same traps, and make mistakes, right? Now, if you take this mega mind guy, I take you to Quran chapter 16, verse 98. In Quran chapter 16, verse 98, this command was only attributed to the prophet. This verse is talking to only the prophet. It is not in a plural form, talking to everybody. It's talking to the prophet. So the verse is, فَإِذَا قَرَأَتَ, it's talking to a second person pronoun. فَإِذَا قَرَأَتَ الْقُرْآنَ فَاسْتَئِذْ بِاللَّهِ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ. So whenever you, that's why I put this S, it's a second person pronoun. Whenever you, Muhammad, peace be upon you, read the Quran, the reason why I'm saying, Mom, he is the first to receive the Quran. So the instructions go to him first before you. Just like when he says, وَلَا تَخَفُ مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٍ, it is talking to a second person pronoun. He is the first to implement those rules before you. Okay, so whenever you read the Quran, then seek protection with God against the accursed devil. So this instruction was given to the prophet or the messenger. Now the messenger has been doing this. Since it is in the Quran, he followed it. This is this context of this verse was only talking to the messenger. But then you have this hypocrite, this guy, mega mind, when he is about to start reading the Quran or reciting the Quran, he will say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. I don't know if you have observed that from that hypocrite. Where is the video? I think this video, right? Did you hear what he just said? Look.
Let's start with
now, you heard him saying, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, right? Now, this hypocrite, he said, Quran chapter 33, verse 21. Listen carefully. I told you this guy, we are not on the same level. Because he has a shallow mind, to be honest. Quran chapter 33, verse 21. Many a times I quote this verse to set as a reference point that the messenger is an example for us to follow. I use the word the messenger. Because this guy doesn't know how context work. Always he say context, context, context. He doesn't even know paragraph. He doesn't know what we call fikra. He is ignorant. Totally. So this is Quran chapter 33 verse 21. This is what God says. There has certainly been a good pattern for you in the messenger of God, for whoever is expecting God in the last day and remembers God frequently. So you see the context? This is the verse. This guy thinks, okay, you have to read the context above and then you connect it down. He foolishly ignores the notion that the messenger is an example. So he says, no. You have to read the context. It doesn't mean whatever the messenger do, you have to do it. Really? Then out of your hypocrisy, why is it that you are using A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim? You are a hypocrite for using A'udhu billahi minash, because that instruction in Quran chapter 16 verse 98 was addressed to the messenger. Yes. Who gave you the right to do A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim? Mr. Mega Mind. Who gave you that right? And you said there is no ritual? Why are you doing that ritual of, why are you actually practicing that ritual? Because that is a ritual. And I dare you the following closely or connection or whatever group, the no ritual group. I dare any of you. Hop on my program. I'll open the phone lines later. Hop on and define the word ritual for me. Then we are going to ask you, do you say A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim? Because you are hypocrites. Wallahi, I'm not going to beat around the bush. You guys are hypocrites. We said the messenger is an example for us to follow. The messenger, yes, he established Salat. We also follow it. We also established the Salat. It was a ritual. Yes. I don't understand why you guys hate the ritual so much. If you hate the Sunnis, hate them. But why the word ritual is a disgusting thing for you? I don't understand this foolishness. Seriously. And out of his hypocrisy, I just played his video. He prays. He says he pray. I wish I would see this guy, how he does his prayer. Follow me closely. Hey. Oh, why is it? Anyways, let's go. So we go to Quran chapter 6, verse 90. Now, in Quran chapter 6, verse 90, if you read from verse 83, coming downwards, it mentioned all the prophets. It mentioned about 19 of the prophets on the list. Then it told you what God did for them. Then God says that is the guidance of God by which he guides whomever he wills among his servants. So he mentioned the list of the prophets, the Noah, Abraham, and so on. Then it went to verse 89. It says, those are the ones to whom we gave the book, the judgment, and prophethood. Therefore, if these people should disbelieve in it, then we had already entrusted it to a people who were not disbelievers. Now, verse 90. Then God says, those are the ones whom God has guided. So lead by their guidance. Those are the ones. This list of the prophets he gave from chapter 6, verse 83. If you read up to verse 89, he gave you the list of the prophets, about 19 prophets. Then he says, those are the ones whom God has guided. Then he says, so lead. Thank you for the gift, Hajj Abdullah. So lead by their guidance. Say, I do not ask you any wage for it. It is only a remembrance for the worlds. So now the messenger was also asked to lead by the guidance of the the prophets. So we follow their footsteps. That is why the Quran is an example for you to take. God says he has given us all the examples you need. He guides you to the examples of those before you so that you will be guided. So every example you need concerning your guidance is there. Nara power, be careful. If he see you, that guy is very abusive. Don't let him see you saying this. Nara power. No, but correctional officer, it's my duty to expose the hypocrites and expose the mushriks and whoever. Like, if you are not being sincere with God, wallahi, I will expose you. Yes, this is who I am. I can ignore you, but if you attack me first, oh, Kabaru, you've caused a fire you cannot quench. I'm serious. I will mess you up. Those are the ones whom God has guided. He guided the prophets and the messengers. So we are supposed to follow their footsteps. As an example, that's why you have the Quran. So you take the guidance therefrom, right? Okay. Now, so what is the benefit of Salat? What is the benefit? What is the actual benefit of Salat? So we go to Quran chapter 7, verse 170. Quran chapter 7, verse 170. This is what God says. God says, as for those who adhere to the book and establish the litany, that's the Salat. As for those who adhere to the book and establish the Salat, the litany, indeed, we will not waste the reward of the reformers. Now, when I say the litany, it is a broader form of prayer. It's a broader form. It is coupleted with recitals. You do the recitation where you can actually, it can be in a group or it can be alone. It is a form of prayer that you do. You understand? So it's still synonymously, it is with the meaning prayer. But litany is a broader concept. It is just like liturgy, right? So translating it, liturgy and prayer is the same thing. It's just a broader concept of it, right? So as for those who are there, yes, as for those who are there to the book and establish the Salat, salam, Brasid Naganka, and adhere to the book and establish the Salat, indeed, we will not waste the reward of the reformers, right? Okay. Yes, litany includes dua. Yes, litany includes dua, right? So litany is just a broader concept of the word prayer, but they are synonymous, right? Litany. When we say litany, some stupid people who are naive think litany is only attributed to Christians or Orthodox or ignorance is a disease. When somebody is claiming to be a Quran alone follower, don't think they are smart in the head. I'm serious. The person can be in the process of being a Quran alone follower or claiming by word, but it doesn't justify that he is a believer, actually, to be honest. So be careful. When people tell you, oh, I'm also a Quran alone follower, you have to examine them. You know, just like in the football, you know, like as a football fan, somebody can tell you, I'm a Manchester United fan, but it doesn't mean they are actually an official fan. Do you get what I mean? There sometimes you go, people are supporting some football teams, then this guy will say, hey, I support Real Madrid, I'm with you. It doesn't mean he's actually a fan. He's just pretending. It can be say he's a fan. He has no idea what the football team is about. Similarly, when people come into Islam and tell you I'm a Quran alone follower, no, they are lying. You have to examine them carefully, to be honest. Beware of the people who come about creating their own words and meanings to things. Please examine those people very well. Yes. There are some people, they are just there to infiltrate people. They just hate the truth, so they want to create their own version of the truth. So as for those who adhere to the book and establish the Salat, indeed, we will not waste the reward of the reformers. Now we go to the next verse. We go to Quran chapter 20, verse 132. In Quran chapter 20, verse 132, God says, and command your family, listen carefully, and command your family to the Salat. But when you read this verse, it is talking to the prophet, right? It is talking to the messenger. But does it mean we shouldn't do the same? We can do the same. We are following his footsteps, right? So, and command your family to the Salat and be patient thereupon. You have to be patient with the Salat. When you are doing the Salat, you shouldn't be in a hurry, like the way you see the mushriks, they go to the masjid, you see, Allahu Akbar, and no, don't be like the mushriks. No. The Salat of the Quran, you don't need to be in a hurry. You don't need to be in a rush. Seriously. So God is saying, and command your family to the Salat and be patient thereupon. You have to be patient whilst doing the Salat. Yes, you have to be patient for it. You have to instruct your family to join it. Yes. Then he says, we do not ask you for sustenance. That is God telling the prophet. We do not ask you to come and feed God or sustenance. We provide for you, and the outcome is for piousness. Right? The outcome is for piousness. Okay. Now, this is the benefit of Salat. The outcome of it is to be pious. Remember, you get closer to God. And I will show you the ritualistic aspect of the Salat that some of the hypocrites are actually trying to turn you away from. They don't want you to be connected to God. You understand? Where are my moderators? Yeah. My moderators. Do I have my moderators on TikTok? Let me see. I forgot how to. Where do I need to go? Yeah, just a second, guys. I just want to make somebody a moderator here. Okay, moderators. Let me see. Rachel Green, if you're here, are you there on TikTok? Yes. Yes, Rachel Green, I added you. Let me see. I added you to my moderators on TikTok. Yeah. Anyways, I silent the person making the nuisance there. Now, so yes, you instruct your family to go for the Salat and to be patient, right? They shouldn't be in a hurry, rushing and anything. You understand? You have to be patient doing the Salat. Now, one interesting part I want you to pay attention is Quran chapter 2, verse 153. This verse is very, very important. Now, this verse I'm putting on the screen, it says, "Oh, you who believe, seek help through patience and the Salat." So God mentioned two subjects here. He mentioned the Salat and he mentioned the Sabr. You seek help through patience. Because we tell God in Quran, in chapter 1, right? We say to him, Ihidina Surata Mustaqim, guide us to the straight path. But before we say guide us to the straight path, we say it is you we worship and it is you we seek for help. So We worship God and we seek God for help. We understand? We seek help from Him. So here God is saying, oh, you believe, seek help through patience and the salat, the prayer. Then He says, indeed, God is with those who are patient. So that is why He says you have to be patient in your salat also. If you are seeking help from God, that is the ritualistic aspect you are connecting with God. Seek help from God in your prayer. We saw Zechariah. If you go to Quran chapter 3, verse 38 to 39, you will see Zechariah asking God for help in his salat. He was actually praying to God in the salah. Yes. So don't let any hypocrite out there tell you don't pray. No prayer in the Quran. They are ignorant too. Wallahi, they are ignorant. I tell you. All you who believe, seek help through patience and the what? And the litany. Indeed, God is with those who are patient. Now let's go to another verse. Now you see this verse I'm reading, it has a context connected above. Now to make sense out of it, God says, so remember me and I will remember you. He says, فَأَذْكُرُنِي وَأَذْكُرُكُمْ وَأَشْكُرُ لِي وَلَا تَكْفُرْنِي. So he says, and remember me and I will remember you, and be thankful to me and do not be ungrateful to me, or do not disbelieve in me. Now this is very, very important, connecting the verse below. Chapter 2, verse 152 is very, very important when you connect it to the verse below. That is why it tells the believers, oh, you who believe, seek help through patience and the salat. It's a connection there, right? The patience and the salat go together. You have to be patient whilst doing the salat. Don't be in a hurry. Where are you going? Are you getting my point? Where are you going? Now let's go. Here, the next verse, the remembrance of God. Why do we establish salat? We establish salat for the remembrance of God. Where is the answer to that? We go to Quran chapter 20, verse 14. So you can see in this verse, God was actually talking to Musa alayhi salam. He was not talking to us. But because we are using the prophets and the messengers as our role models to take the examples from them, because God has guided them. So we are going to use them as the example to follow. See, simple. Then some hypocrites are telling us, oh, the salat is only for the Prophet Muhammad. It doesn't, the believers. Please don't take directions from a blind person. I told you, these people in a real world, they cannot make any sense out there. Nobody will take them seriously. Yes, these people who just sit down, keep guessing words, you think they are sensible. Nobody will take them seriously. So God says, Innani ana Allah, la ilaha illa ana, fa'abuduni wa akimi salat li zikri. He says, indeed, I am the God. There is no God except me. So worship me and establish the salat for my remembrance. So we establish the salat for the remembrance of God. That is the main purpose of salat. We establish salat for the remembrance of God. That is the main purpose of salat. Are you getting the point? You establish the salat for the remembrance of God. That's why you establish salat. You are not establishing the salat to go and do following closely. You are not establishing salat to go and do that connection thing, whether it's electricity, I don't get it. You establish the salat for the remembrance of God. Now, this is further emphasized in Quran chapter 62, verse 9. In Quran chapter 62, verse 9. This is what God says. He says, Ya ayyuhallazina amanu, iza nudiya lis-salat min yawmil jum'at fas'au ila zikrillahi wazarul bay'a. Then he says, Zalikum khairul lakum in kuntum ta'alamun. O you who have believed, when called to the salat, to the litany, from the day of congregation, when there's a congregation, because there's sales going on, right? People are doing sales in the market day. Then proceed to the remembrance of God. Do you see what salat is about? is about the remembrance of God. Proceed to the remembrance of God and leave sale. But this verse is talking to the believers. You understand? So ask Megamind, do the believers only exist at the time of the prophet? Believers don't exist now. Then you, Megamind, what are you claiming to be? A believer or a mushrik? Hey, all you who have believed, when called to the Salat, the litany, from the day of congregation, then proceed to the remembrance of God. But that is the main purpose of Salat, the remembrance of God. And leave sale, because that day, sales is ongoing. It's a day, it's a market day of sales and entertainment. Then God says, that is better for you if you should know. So you see, the main purpose of Salat is the remembrance of God. He told Moses the same thing, and here he's telling the believers the same thing. Then again, he told the prophet in Quran chapter 29, verse 45. He says, recite what has been inspired to you of the book and establish the Salat, the litany. Indeed, the litany restrains obscenity and abomination because it is due to the remembrance of God. And in Quran chapter 16, verse 90, God tells you how he tells you to refrain from that. So Quran chapter 29, verse 45, not 44, 45. So he says, recite what has been inspired to you of the book and establish the litany. Indeed, the litany restrains obscenity and abomination. Then he says, and the remembrance of God is what? Is greater. The remembrance of God is greater. It means there is an aspect of recitation. You can recite from the book of God. Yes, there is that aspect. I will show you the evidences from the Quran. Tranquil. Correctional officer will show you everything. There is a recitation aspect, but the remembrance of God is greater because that is the main essence of Salat. Put that in mind. Yeah, put that in mind. Then he says, and God knows whatever you do. Remember that. Okay. So now, I take you to Quran chapter 13, verse 28. What the remembrance of God, what does it do to you? The remembrance of God, Quran chapter 13, verse 28. Listen what God says. Allazina amanu wa tatma'innu qulubuhum bi zikrillah. Ala bi zikrillahi tatma'innu qulub. So he says, those who believe, their hearts are reassured by the remembrance of God. Do you see where the remembrance of God comes from? From the Salat. You establish the Salats for the remembrance of God. So God says, those who believe, their hearts are reassured by the remembrance of God. Then it says, verily, by the remembrance of God, their hearts are reassured. That is why as a believer, if you are actually a believer and you establish the Salat for the remembrance of God, you have that, one-on-one moment with your God. Whether it is in a group, whether you are alone praying to God, just like Zechariah did, there is assurance. You are reassured because you have a bond with God. Are you getting my point? So you get the assurance. You are reassured. Your heart's tranquil. So now, the remembrance of God. To see that it is talking about the Salat, you go to Quran chapter 76, verse 25. And I'm going to read up to verse 26. See what God says. He says, وَاذْكُرِ إِسْمَ رَبِّكَ بُكْرَةً وَأَصِيلًا. Then he says, وَمِنَ اللَّيْلِ. Then he says, فَاسْجُدُوا لَهُ وَسَبِّهُ لَيْلًا طَوِيلًا. He says, and commemorate the name of your Lord early in the morning and before sunset, and of the night, thus prostrate to him. So these hypocrites, they will tell you, and of the night, submit to him. Which kind of submission? In the night? Submit to God, how? So you didn't submit in the daytime? Hypocrites. Hypocrites. These people, they're following closely people. Hypocrites. Out of their naivety, then they will tell you, oh, sujud only means submit. Okay, so this verse, and commemorate the name of your Lord early in the morning and before sunset, and of the night, thus prostrate to him. The hypocrite will say, oh, submit to him. So I only submit to God in the night. I will not submit to him in the afternoon, in the morning, and then Wallahi, these guys are bozos. If you are taking traffic directions from a blind person, this is what you end up being. They say, out of his foolishness, he says, oh, sujud, sajada can only mean submit in the Quran. Look at this ignorant bozo. Bring your fully translated Quran. Let's examine it and see the foolishness you have there. So God is saying, commemorate the name of your Lord early in the morning. It has to do with your Salat. That's the early morning, Fajr. And before sunset, it has to do with your Isha. That is, you establish Salat for the Zikrullah. And of the night, my night Salat. That's prostrate to him, because it's continuous. So in the morning, I'll do the same. I'll commemorate God and prostrate. And then before sunset, I'll commemorate God and prostrate. And at the night, that's why he used the word thus. Prostrate to him and glorify him a long night. So if it is about submitting, I only submit to God a long night. Yeah, so let's go on. The next verse is in Quran chapter 24. These same people, they don't agree with the notion of a masjid. If you ask them masjid, they say no, there is no masjid. Masjid, no. This is what God says in Quran chapter 24 verse 36. It says, في بيوت أذن الله أن ترفع ويذكر فيها اسمه يسبح له فيها بالغدو والآصال. It says, in houses you find the light of God. If you read the context from verse 35, chapter 24 verse 35, the context comes downwards to 36. It is telling you about the light of God, right? So in houses, God has permitted to be raised. When we say turfa'a, rafa'a, to raise something, right? To raise. God has permitted the masjids to be raised. That is, masjid are dedicated to God. That is why it belongs to God. Quran chapter 72 verse 18. وَأَنَّ الْمَسَاجِدَ لِلَّهِ فَلَا تَدْعُ مَعَ اللَّهِ أَحَدًا. That is Quran chapter 72 verse 18. So masjids are the houses God has permitted to be raised. So in houses God has authorized or permitted to be raised and commemorate his name. Listen carefully. And commemorate his name therein. In houses God has permitted to be raised. Then he says, and commemorate, listen, and commemorate his name therein, glorifying him when? Therein, in the mornings and before sunset. And we know these houses that God has authorized, right? He has permitted those masjids, they belong to him. That is where he gave his authority for. Okay. Then we go again. We go to the next verse, which is Quran chapter 7, verse 205. In Quran chapter 7, verse 205, God says, وَاذْكُرْ رَبَّكَ فِي نَفْسِكَ تَضَرُّعًا وَخِيفَةً. Then he says, وَدُونَ الْجَارِ مِنَ الْقَوْلِ بِالْغُدُوِّ وَالْآصَالِ وَلَا تَكُنْ مِنَ الْغَافِلِينَ. He says, and commemorate your Lord within yourself by imploring. Then he says, and secretly, below the loudness of the speech. Below the loudness. It doesn't mean silence. It's below the loudness, right? So it has to be moderate. When we say below the loudness of speech, meaning moderate, it doesn't mean silently, right? So commemorate your Lord within yourself. You see another ritual here God is asking you to do? The hypocrites, they tell you there's no rituals in the Quran. Again, another ritual. And commemorate your Lord within yourself by imploring and secretly, right? Below the loudness of the speech, in the mornings and before sunset, and do not be among the heedless. The hypocrites among us, they are heedless of this. Yeah. They say, no ritual in the Quran, so we are not doing it. We are only doing following closely. Okay, keep up with your following closely, hypocrites. Now this, I found out that these same hypocrites are saying that there is no dua. What? There is no dua in what? In the Salat or whatever they are saying. The word dua goes with Salat. The word dua, it goes with Salat in the Quran. And I'm going to give you the example. You find the word dua in the same context with the word Salat. Salat happens to be the broader concept of the word dua. Dua can be done outside Salat. Are you getting my point? But in every Salat, there is dua. It is not every dua that contains Salat. When I say dua, I mean invocation or supplication. Supplication can be done without washing yourself. Supplication can be done without having standing positions. Supplication can be done at any time. But Salat is a fixed time God has given to the believers, that we have to have that connection with God. Are you getting my point? So this dua, we go to Zachariah's verse. Quran chapter 3 verse 38. We read up to verse 39. See what God says. So God says, Hunalika da'a Zachariah rabbahu. It was there Zachariah invoked his what? His Lord. You see the word da'a. Da'a. The word da'a. So he says, Hunalika da'a Zachariah rabbahu. It was there Zachariah invoked his Lord. He says, Lord, grant me a good offspring from you. Indeed, you are the hearer of dua, invocation. That is the word, ad-dua. But then the context reveals itself. Where was he doing the dua? We can see he was doing it in his salat. Then he says, and the angels called him while he was standing in the salah. While he was standing in prayer, yusalli. He was standing in prayer. The hypocrites among us, they will reject this word here in this context, and then they will say he was standing following closely. What kind of foolishness is this? He was standing following what closely? He was standing in what? Connecting. And the angels called him while he was standing in what? In prayer. The angels called him while he was standing in the salah. The hypocrite will say, no. Here it doesn't mean salah. It doesn't mean, it means following closely. It means connection. He was standing in the connection. Connection of what? Electricity. Let it make sense. He was standing in prayer. Look at the context above. He was standing in prayer. So, while standing in prayer in the sanctum that God gives you good news of John, confirming a word from God as a leader, stringent, and a prophet among the righteous. So Zechariah was standing in prayer. You saw Lee. He was standing praying. Okay. Now, Diana says what? Standing, connecting, make it make sense. Jump says, laugh my ass off. Connection of electricity. Well, Megamind has the answers for this. He will say he is standing and following closely. These guys are comedians. So, this is Quran chapter 3, verse 38 to 39. When you read, it has an extended context in Quran chapter 19, verse 3 to verse 4. Let me take you to that verse and show you something. When Zechariah was standing in prayer, we call it a secret call because he was calling on God. So here, it says what? You start from verse 2. It says, mention the mercy of your Lord to his servant Zechariah. When he called, listen, when he called his Lord a secret call, because he was alone. He called him alone. So he was standing and following closely. He was standing alone and following closely alone. Hey, these people. These following closely people, these ritual people, they hate to pray. Seriously. Here is Zechariah praying. He is standing alone, secretly with God, and he is praying. This hypocrite will say, oh, he's following closely. He was standing and connecting. He was connecting electricity. I don't know. Connecting what? He was standing in prayer. He was supplicating. The word dua, it goes in line with the word salah, pray. Yes. And I will show you another evidence. But let's go. When he called his Lord a secret call, what happened with the secret call? He, Zechariah, said, Lord, indeed, my bones have become weak, and gray has fled up my head, and I have never been unhappy in invoking you, my Lord. So you see the word invoking, du'aika. He used the word du'aika. So when he was standing in prayer, when he was standing and praying, he was doing dua in the prayer. Because your salah can be used for dua, to call on God, to speak to God when you are alone. You don't have to do it like the way you are in a group. And I will show you the group salah. It's in the Quran. Everything is in the Quran. God says in Quran chapter 6 verse 38, Ma farratna fil kitabi min shay. We did not leave anything out of this book. God has not left anything out of this book. You find everything in the Quran concerning your guidance. Babashuaib is going to help you. Aha. Some of my biggest fans are the Iron, like people like Iron Man and so on. The no ritual salat. They hate us so much that they have to patronize our page. So he was here 24 hours commenting. Thank you for being a big fan, Iron Man. Please, when I open the phone lines, call, because I don't know if you are Captain America or you are Black Panther. Which kind of Iron Man? I've never heard your voice. So please call and then state your points. And let's expose your ignorance also. Now, so we can see Zechariah clearly. He was standing in prayer and it was a secret call. He calling God. He was invoking God in his salah. Okay. The same hypocrite again says, no ritual salat in the Quran, no ritual. You don't need to connect to God ritualistically. No, you are going to hell when you do ritual salah. If I do like Zechariah did, I'm going to hell, right? Mega mind. I'm going to hell. When I do just like Zechariah did, I'm going to hell, right? Hypocrites. Again, when you go to Quran chapter 7, verse 55, this is what God says. God says, invoke your Lord by imploring and in secret, just like Zechariah did. He used the word ad'u rabbakum tadaru'an wa khufya. Then he says, innahu la yuhibbul muhtadin. He says, invoke your Lord by imploring and in secret. Indeed, he does not like the trespassers. So you invoke your Lord. Yes, you can establish your salat and invoke God. You have to have that ritualistic connection with God. There is nothing wrong with that. The evidences are in the Quran. Stick around. Babashuaib is going to show you everything. You see the evidences. And I'll open the phone lines. I'll go to TikTok. Be a man. Join me. Prove to me where I'm lying to the people. If you have balls. Yeah. So Quran chapter 17 verse 110. Let's go and see the dua in the Salat. Quran chapter 17 verse 110. This is what it says. Kul adu Allah aw adu Rahman ayyamataduhu. Then it says falahu al-asmahul husna. So he says wala tajhar bi salatika wala tukhafit biha wabtagi bayna zalika sabila. Say, talking to the messenger, invoke the God. Invoke. And this is in the Salat. Listen to the verse. Listen to the context of the verse. Invoke the God or invoke the gracious. Whichever you invoke, thence to him belongs the best names. If you want to know the best names, go to chapter 7, verse 180. He said you should call him by those names. So you go to Quran chapter 59, you can read from verse 22, verse 23 to verse 24. You will see most of his best names there. Ar-Rahman, Al-Kabir, you know, and go, Muhaymin, Al-Quddus, and so on. Then he says, and do not be loud with your salat. Do not be loud with your prayer. Do not be loud with your liturgy. Do not be loud with your litany. Do not be loud, then the hypocrite will say, with your following closely. Please let it make sense. Do not be loud with your following closely. Do not be loud with your connection. Which connection? I beg you. So, which connection? Connection of what? Does it make sense to you? We do not be loud with your connection. Do not be loud with your prayer. Do not be loud with your litany. Do not be loud with it. Then he says what? Nor be silent with it. So then, but seek a way in between. So you have to have a moderate tone because you are going to call on God. You have to talk to God with respect and you have to be patient whilst doing it. So you say Allah, Ar-Rahman, Al-Kabir. You can say the magnificent, the gracious. If you're speaking English, use English. There's nothing wrong with using English to talk to God. Yes, there's nothing wrong. Right? So, yes, translating the words of God is allowed. Yes, don't let any foolish person say you cannot pray in your language. To be honest. Was Abraham an Arab? Was Moses an Arab? Which language did they pray to God? Was Zechariah, was he an Arab? No. He was praying in his language for God's sake. Look, it is only the aspect of recitation. If you have a message to recite, you can recite in Arabic if you think you want to get the context, the right recitation. But when you finish, there's no harm when you read the language you can understand, English and that is if it's in a group salat. If you are alone, there's no necessity for you to do that. Right? If you are alone, no necessity for you to take that and say you are going to read. No. Of course, you are reading for your own good because you take the words of God. God says you can recite and establish the salat, right? But the main essence of your salat is the remembrance of God, right? Okay. So say, invoke the God or invoke the gracious. Whichever you invoke, then to him belongs the best name. So you invoke God with his best names. Then he says, and do not be loud with your salat, that is your litany, nor be silent with it, but seek a way in between, because you are going to be calling on God. And this is similarly stated in Quran chapter 7, verse 205, concerning the remembrance within yourselves without the loudness of speech. You don't have to be loud. It has to be moderate. Okay. So that is the word dua. You see the word invoke. Here, the word invoke here, adu, tedu. That is dua. So you can see the word salat goes with the word dua. They go together. But however, dua can be done separately without salat. However, by salat, when salat is done, dua has to be part of salat. Are you getting? Okay. So again, we go to Quran chapter 7 verse 29. When invoking God in the masjid, right? Rashid says illegal connection. Yes, the connection people or the following clue. I don't know how they do this one. They keep making up their old words and meanings. They are very emotional also, and are very abusive. Let's be careful because Mega Man can start attacking us right now, can start insulting us right now. So let's be careful what we say. Anyways, let's go to the next evidence. We go to Quran chapter 7, verse 29. In Quran chapter 7, verse 29, this is what it says. It says, Kul amara rabbi bil kisti wa akimu wujuhakum inda kulli masjid. Then it says, wa aduhu mukhlisina lahu din kama badaakum ta'udun. He says, say, my Lord commands to justice and to erect your faces at every masjid and invoke him. At every masjid and invoke him, sincerely devoting the religion to him. Then he says, just as he initiated you, you will return. So just as God initiated you, you will return. Say, my Lord commands to justice and to erect your faces at every masjid and invoke him. So the word adu'u is used. You see here? Wad'uhu. So that is to invoke him. Invoke him in the word masjid. You invoke God. So we are going to see the line of invocation towards God when you are calling God. Here, Quran chapter 72 verse 18. This is what it says. It says, وَأَنَّ الْمَسَاجِدَ لِلَّهِ فَلَا تَدُعُوا مَعَ اللَّهِ أَحَدًا. It says, and that the mosques, that's the place of prostration, are for God. So do not invoke anyone with what? With God. وَأَنَّ الْمَسَاجِدَ لِلَّهِ فَلَا تَدْعُوا مَعَ اللَّهِ أَحَدًا. And that the mosques are for God. So do not invoke anyone with what? With God. So when you come calling on God, it is only God. Don't do like the mushriks. Out of their foolishness, they come and say, Assalamu alayka, ayyuhan nabiyyu, wa rahmatullahi. They are mushriks. They are idol worshippers. Don't be like those foolish people, mushriks. Don't be like that. Because your salat will be useless. Ask out of their ignorance, ask them when they are in the salat, the Prophet himself, out of their foolishness, they say he said, Sallu kamara aitumuni usalli. He said they should pray as they have seen him pray. I don't know what is wrong with these mushriks. None of them ever seen him praying. But then they end up doing what? What do? They go and tell the Prophet in their salat, Assalamu alayka ayyuhan nabiyyu. Did the Prophet do the same thing? The answer is no. So, and that the mosques are for God, so do not invoke anyone with God. So you can see the act of invocation. So if I go to the mosque for my salat, I'm invoking God. You understand? When you read to verse 19, and he says, and that when the servant of God got up to invoke him in the what? In the masjid. When he got up to invoke God, what happened? They almost became a compacted mass against him because they hated the fact that he wanted to call God in the masjid. Okay. So now, if anybody tells you the word dua is not in line with the word salah, that person is a hypocrite and ignorant. The word salah is in line with the word dua in the Quran. But dua can be done without necessarily being in the salat. But salat, yes, it involves dua. You understand? The main aspect of Salat is the remembrance of God. And we are going to see the instance in the Quran. I'll give the evidence before this lecture ends, inshallah. So let's go to the next evidence. So now the notion of dua is done. We are done with the notion of dua. There is dua in the Salat. Then now we go to these people like to quote Quran chapter 75, verse 31. When they quote this verse, I laugh. I keep laughing because their ignorance is very big. I'm serious. When these people, the following closely people and the connection people, when they quote this verse to justify their stupidity, I keep laughing at their foolishness, to be honest. And I'm going to show you the foolishness here. Just check what I'm going to do. You will see most of the times, you will see many of these following closely people, they will quote this verse. Fala saddaka wala salla. Fala saddaka wala salla. Then they will go, walakin kazzaba watawalla. Then automatically, out of nowhere, these people have never studied Arabic for the sake of God. Then out of nowhere, they will tell you, you see how God is talking? It means the opposite of sadaqah is salah. It means the opposite of kazzaba. Please help me. How do they even say it? They will say, if God says sadaqah wala salah, it means the opposite of kazzaba is tawalla. I don't know where they got this foolishness from. In which Arabic grammar or dictionary or which syllable did you get this madness from? That this one is the opposite of this one. So what they do is, fala sadaka, they don't know the meaning of sadaka, and I'm going to break it down. Now, if you put, for he that is believer neither gave alms, I'm going to prove the point from the Quran, and you see it clearly. He neither gave alms. You know, one of the most important things God instructed the believers, apart from sincerely devoting the deen to God, is to establish the salat and give the what? Zakat. So let's go to this verse before I come here. In Quran chapter 98, verse 5, this is what God instructed. It says, وَمَا أُمِرُوا إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ مُخْلِصِينَ لَهُ الدِّينَ هُنَفَاءَ وَيُقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَيُؤْتُوا الزَّكَاةَ وَذَلِكَ دِينُ الْقَيِّمَةِ. So he says, and they were not commanded except to worship God, sincerely devoting to him the true religion, establishing what? The litany, and giving the charity. And that is the valuable religion. So this is very essential. First of all, you have to sincerely devote the deen to God. Then you establish your salat, which gives you the ritual connection with God. Then you give the charity. The charity is the money you give in order to purify your own soul. Go to Quran chapter 92, read from verse 17, 18, 19, 20, 21 to understand the meaning of zakah. It is the money you give in order to purify yourself. That is what we call zakah. Now, so going back to Quran chapter 75, verse 31, because these people are very naive, they don't understand the meaning of this sadaqah. This verse is simply implying, if you take two meanings to this verse, if you said he did not believe nor prayed, the context is still valid. For he neither believed nor prayed. It is correct. You have to believe in order to pray, because the prayer is for who? Believers. So if you translate the word sadaqah as he neither believed nor prayed, is valid. Now let's take the notion of he neither gave alms. And I'm going to use another verse to break that down. So for he that is believer neither give alms. Sadaqah. So to understand the word sadaqah, let's go to chapter 63 of the hypocrites, and then we go to verse 10. So check here. I'm going to show you the word sadaqah here. God says, Anfiku min ma razaqnakum, razaqnakum min qabli an yatiya ahadakumul maut. Fayakula rabbi lawla akhartani ila ajalin qarib. Then he said what? Fa asaddaqa. Listen what he said. Fa asaddaka wa akun minal salihin. So he used the word fa asaddaka here. Fa asaddaka. Now this is the context. And disburse from what we have provided you before death comes to one of you. Then he says, Lord, why not delay me to a nearby term? Then I would give alms. Sadaqah. Do you see the word? Here in Arabic, the transliteration here, then I would give alms. Because the disbeliever never did the way God wanted him to do. They normally do it for show off. They normally do it not for because of God. Have you seen the atheists and the disbelieving nations? They give charity not because of God. They do it for their own benefits. They have their gains from it. But as a believer gives charity for the sake of God because he knows his reward is coming from God. You see the difference? Okay. So the word sadaqah, fala sadaqah wala salla, you will see some of the hypocrites among the Quran alone followers because they want to change the meaning of salah. Then they will say, oh, the opposite of this word, because God says this, it means the opposite of this word is this word. Hey, you guys and your comedy. Hey, you Facebook workshop for 101. I will show you the foolishness on that day. So the word sadaqah has been used in the Quran several times. It is either used to give credence or it's used for giving alms. It is not about being opposite of this and opposite of that. Are you getting my point? Okay, let's go again. So we are talking about Quran chapter 75, verse 31. This hypocrite among us, we again quote this verse. Fala saddaka wala salla. So that they always go to the second verse. Then he says, Walakin kazzaba wa tawalla. But he denied and turned away. Then they will say, kazzaba is the opposite of what? Of saddaka. Then they will say, salla is the opposite of tawalla. Hey, I don't know where they get this mental gymnastics from. Anyways, let's go back to 75:31. Again, somebody will say, why will God punish a disbeliever? Plainly because he didn't give alms and he didn't pray. So let's go to the Salah. Remember, the Salat is for the believers. You have to be a believer in order to establish the Salat. Hypocrites do Salat. Disbelievers do Salat. Go to Quran chapter 4, verse 142. Hypocrites do Salat. It will not be accepted. Go to Quran chapter 8, verse 35. Disbelievers do Salat. It will not be accepted because they are not doing it according to the way God wants it to be done. Because they either idolize or do it wrongly, not in the way God wants it. So now let's go to Quran chapter 35, verse 29. In Quran chapter 35, verse 29, this is the evidence here. God says, Inna allazina yatuluna kitab Allahi wa aqamu salata. Then he says, wa anfaku mimma razaqnahum sirran wa alaniyatan. Then he says, yarjuna tijaratan lan tabura. So God, or lan tabur. So he says, indeed, those who recite the book of God and establish the litany and disperse. So you see the importance of establishing your litany, which is to have your ritual connection with God. Then we have and disperse from what we have provided for them. They disperse, meaning they give charity. We understand? Because that is constantly giving you good deeds to wipe your bad deeds. Because it's an act of good. So there is a ritual aspect of faith, and then there is the righteousness actual aspect of faith. It is foolishness for anybody to tell you God doesn't need rituals. Then why will he mandate it for you? Why do you need to say A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim when you read the Quran? Stop reading it if God doesn't need it. Why do you do it? What kind of hypocrites do we have here? We have provided, then God is secretly and publicly are expecting a business which will never perish. So you can see in this verse, the main essence of this verse is talking about the Salat and then the charity. The Salat, thank you, Mr. Jailer. The Salat and then the charity. So the disbeliever will be dealt with on the day of judgment because he did this. Quran chapter 75, verse 31. This disbeliever will be dealt with. Why? For he, the disbeliever, neither give alms, he never gave alms, nor prayed. He didn't pray as it is needed. He never prayed. The Salah we are talking about. He never did the Salah. Understand this. He never established the Salah. So he will be dealt with. Okay. So the ignorance of those saying that the opposite of this is this, I don't know where you got this logic from. But babashuaib is here. Call me after this and prove to me where you got the logic that this is the opposite of this. Kezaba is the opposite of tawalla. We will see if you make sense. Because you guys are just keyboard warriors. There's no sense coming from you guys, to be honest. I have no mercy for you anymore. Your foolishness bore me big time. Anyways, let's move on. The next evidence, we go to Quran chapter 87 verse 15. Let me put 87 verse 50 on the screen. Quran chapter 87 verse 15. This is what he said. God says, "Waskara isma rabbi fasalla," and commemorates the name of his Lord and praise. Commemorates the name of his Lord and praise. In the prayer, what we do is we commemorate the name of God. For instance, if you say Allahu Kabir, you are commemorating his name. You mention his name. You are remembering his name or mentioning his name in the Salah. And commemorate the name of his Lord and praise. And do your Salah. You understand? You pray. What is the meaning of prayer? Prayer is the act of communicating with a deity. So if I'm communicating with God, it's called prayer. It's Salah. That's what prayer is. Prayer is an act of communicating with a deity. So I'm communicating with my God. That is Salah. Are you getting the point? So, and commemorate the name of his Lord and no one, and praise. Then, again, it's mentioned in Quran chapter 96 verse 10. Check this. In Quran chapter 96 verse 10, this is what God says. When you read coming from verse 9, he says, "Have you seen the one who forbids a servant when he prays?" Do you know those people? The following closely people, the connection people. They forbid you. They don't want you to do Salah. They forbid you. You are a servant of God. You want to pray to God. Then they will tell you, hey, stop it. There is no prayer in the Quran. Don't pray to God. Stop it. Because the devil wants your ass. Yeah. He wants your ass. So he doesn't want you to pray. Have you seen the one who forbids a servant of God, that a servant, when he prays? Yeah, we have seen them. We know them. The ones who say following closely, there is no praying. They say Salat is schooling session. Hey, schooling session. Salat is school sessions. Hey, these guys, they like comedy. Salat is school session. Seriously. Salat, you say it's school session. Okay. I don't know which school. Is it Oxford or Harvard? I don't know which school you are talking about. Anyways, now we go to this next evidence. When we go to concerning people who don't understand why you say Allahu Kabir before you do, when you are doing your Salat, you go to Quran chapter 74, verse 3. It is the command from God who asks us to do the Kabir. He says, وَرَبَّكَ فَكَبِّرْ, and then magnify your Lord. Right? وَرَبَّكَ فَكَبِّرْ. So when we say Kabir, we are talking about saying Allahu Kabir. If you say Kabir, Allahu Kabir, it is enough. If you say Allahu Kabir, it's enough. There is nothing like Allahu Akbar, to say Allahu Akbar. No, God never asked you to say Allahu Akbar. He just called himself Kabir, and he says, وَرَبَّكَ فَكَبِّرْ. Just say Allahu Kabir is enough. And the next evidence is found in Quran chapter 17, verse 111. This is the evidence. In Quran chapter 17, verse 111, if you go the last part of the verse, the ending of the verse here, it says, وَكَبِّرْهُ تَكْبِيرًا. وَكَبِّرْهُ تَكْبِيرًا. So if you say Allahu Kabir, that's sufficient. If you say Allahu Al-Kabir, it is sufficient. The Kabir is one of the names of God. You find it in Quran chapter 13, verse 9. You find it in a lot of verses. But when you go to chapter 13, verse 9, you see Alimul Ghaibi wa Shahadat. Then he says Al-Kabir. You see? Al-Kabir Al-Muta'al. So he says knower of the unseen and testimony, the magnificent, the exalted. So the name Al-Kabir is one of the names of God. Right? Okay. Now, we are done with the people saying the word chapter 75 verse 31 is the opposite of this and this is a lie. It's a lie. These people don't know the Quran. They don't study, for God's sake. Especially, that is the Iron Man's favorite verse. If you are a man enough, after I finish this, call me and let's hear your voice and make sense out of the verse. When you keep putting chapter 75 verse 31 always. So again, now we are done with the issue of opposite. Now let's go. Some people are saying that there is no action, the act of standing in the Salat. There is no recitation in the Salat. There is no prostration in the Salat. We have several verses in the Quran which actually talks about this in a whole. Yeah, Irisha, I see you. Hello, how are you? So I take you to certain verses to show you the act of standing. There is act of recitation. There is the act of prostration. Don't let these ignorant people among the so-called Quran alone, no ritual groups mislead you with their ignorance. I'm telling you for a fact, in a real world, these people cannot stand in an argument or debate. I'm not joking with you. Wallahi lazim. In the real world, they look like, how will I say, Chihuahua. They cannot make sense in the real world. Nobody will take them serious. They can't prove their arguments. Yes. Babashuaib is telling you for a fact. You just see them online and you think they are making sense. So I'm going to show you the act of standing in the Salat with the verses to prove it that there is standing in the Salat. The people who are telling you the school session, they should show you where it says sitting down in the Salat. They should show you where it says sitting down for school session in the Salat. I dare them. They should come. Yeah, no problem. Imran, you can continue watching tomorrow, inshallah. So now, let me take you to the next verse. The next verse is found in Quran chapter 62, verse 11. In Quran chapter 62, verse 11, you see the Prophet standing during the Salat. During the Salat, he was standing. If you go to Quran chapter 62, verse 11, God says, وَإِذَا رَأَوْا تِجَارَةً أَوْ لَهْوًا انفَدُوا إِلَيْهَا وَتَرَكُوكَ قَائِمًا. Then he says, قُلْ مَا عِنْدَ اللَّهِ خَيْرٌ مِنَ اللَّهِ وَمِنَ التِّجَارِ. Then he says, وَاللَّهُ خَيْرُ الرَّازِقِينَ. But when they saw a business or an entertainment, they rushed to it and left you, Muhammad. They left you standing. Qa'iman. This word qa'iman used here is the same qa'iman used for Zakaria in Quran chapter 3, verse 39. Check it right now and tell me if I'm lying. This word used in Quran chapter 62, verse 11, the Prophet standing in the Salat, because the context is about the Salat. This same qa'iman is used for Zakaria in Quran chapter 3, verse 39. Let me put it on the screen. In Quran chapter 3, verse 39, this is Zakaria here. Well, فَنَادَتُهُ الْمَلَائِكَةُ وَهُوَ قَائِمٌ يُصَلِّي. You see the word qa'imun? For the Prophet, it used qa'iman. The difference is the dumma and the fat'ah. Same thing. Right? Okay. Qa'imun, qa'iman. Good. So now, Quran chapter 62, verse 11, we see the Prophet standing in the Salat. Quran chapter 3, verse 39, we see Zachariah standing in the Salat. Then we go to Quran chapter 2, verse 238. We are going to see where God is instructing the believers to stand in their Salat. So he says, Hafizu ala salawati wa salatul wusta wa kumu lillahi qanitin. Observe the litanies together with the middle litany and stand obediently before God. Stand obediently before God. That is about the Salat. You stand. Standing is in the Salat. So don't let any foolish person out there tell you, no, there is no standing. It is metaphorical. You have to fly. It is not about standing to talk to God. Hey, please, if you are in fear, some people will say, okay, what about verse 39? If you are afraid, you are in fear and panic, this is what God says. Quran chapter 2, verse 239. فَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ فَرِجَالًا أَوْ رُكْبَانًا. Then he says, فَإِذَا أَمِنْتُمْ فَاذْكُرُوا اللَّهَ كَمَا عَلَّمَكُمْ مَا لَمْ تَكُونُوا تَعْلَمُونَ. So he says, and if you fear, because you could be in fear, let's say you are traveling, you cannot get the chance to stand to pray. Let's say you are going somewhere, you cannot stand. Let's say you are in the bus, you cannot stand. Let's say you are in the aeroplane, you cannot stand to pray. So God says you can do the prayer. If you fear, then by walking, whilst you're walking, you can pray. Whilst you're walking, I will tell you how to do that. Whilst you're walking or whilst you are riding. It could be you are riding a sheep, on the sheep, you are on the a boat, you are on the in the vehicle, you are on aeroplane, you mentioned on the horse, on the donkey. You could be riding, you can still do the prayer. Why? Because it says, and when you are safe, then commemorate God as he has taught you that which you did not know. He taught you prayer, the Salat goes with the standing. Remember, we are taking the examples of the prophets before us. We are following the examples of the messengers before us. And especially the messenger himself is an example. So if the messenger himself stood in his Salat, how ignorant and arrogant can you be? You say, no need for you to stand in your Salat. The following closely, people. If I'm taking the messenger as an example to follow, and here he stood in his Salat, and you are telling me, no, we are not going to stand in the Salat. It's school session. So you are going to sit down and do your school session. Arrogant you are. You understand? So Salat is essentially about tasbih. About glorification. About remembrance of God. So the essence of Salat is to remember God, the remembrance of God. So when you are remembering God and you don't get the chance to do the standing, you can do that whilst you are walking. You can do the remembrance whilst you are even riding. So for people who are telling me, oh, what if I'm in the aeroplane and it's time for me to pray? What should I do? Just do the remembrance of God. The zikr Allah. That's it. Yes, you can do remembrance of God by doing supplications and so on. They are all part of remembrance of God. Example, let me give you an example of remembrance of God. Quran chapter 3, verse 191. This is what God says. Allazina yazkuruna Allah qiyaman wa qu'udan wa ala junubihim wa yatafakkaruna fi khalqi as-samawati wal ard. Then he says, Rabbana ma khalaqta haza batila subhanaka fakina azab an-nar. He says, who commemorate God standing, sitting, and upon their sides, and ponder about the creation of the heavens and the earth. Our Lord, you did not create this in vain. Glory be to you, and safeguard us from the punishment of the what? Fire. So we can see the act of remembrance of God doesn't necessitate that when I didn't get the chance to stand for the Salat, does not necessitate that I cannot do this. I can do this. Whether I'm sitting down, I can do the remembrance of God because I didn't get the chance to stand for the Salat. I can lie down, I'm lying down, and I'm remembering God. It doesn't necessitate that you have to stand, because somebody can be sick, but he want to pray. Can he stand? No. So he can be lying down and do the remembrance of God. Are you getting my point? Somebody can be sick. Maybe his sickness will not tolerate him to stand. So he is only sitting in the wheelchair. He can do that while sitting down. Remembrance of God. Somebody can be lying down. He might not be able to get up. He can do the remembrance of God whilst he's lying down. Are you getting the logic here? But the main essential part, if you are fit and able, then you have to do it the way God has taught you, by standing. We saw the prophet Muhammad standing, Zechariah standing. God told the believers to stand obediently before God. But the hypocrites among us, they say, "Ahi, there is no ritual salat, no need to stand, no need to stand." Let's go to the next verse. In Quran chapter 83 verse 6, on the day of judgment, you are going to stand in front of God. This is the verse. This hypocrite will again tell you it's metaphorical. He says, "Yawma yakumu nasu li rabbil alamin." It says the day mankind will stand before the Lord of the worlds. Quran chapter 83 verse 6. As the hypocrite, is this one also metaphorical? God says mankind will stand before the Lord of the worlds. Are we going to sit? I know the following closely people, they might say this is about sitting down or swimming. Yeah, these people just make up meanings anyhow they want. So again, we go to Quran chapter 4, verse 102 to prove to you there's an act of standing in the time in Salat. So here in this verse, God says, فَإِذَا كُنْتَ فِيهِمْ فَأَقَمْتَ لَهُمُ الصَّلَاةَ. Then he says, فَلْتَكُمْ طَائِفَةٌ مِّنْهُمْ مَعَكَ. So this is what God says. And when you, Muhammad, you are among them, then establish the litany, establish the Salat for them, and let a faction of them stand with you. The hypocrites among the Quran alone followers, again, will say, "Oh, no, here is about a school session. It's a school session." It is not about a ritual. You don't need to stand. Hey! Allah Isa. The evidence is clear in the Quran, but these people know they don't like it because they want to form their own religion. No ritual group, no ritual religion. They say God doesn't need rituals. Hey! And when you, Muhammad, you are among them, then he says, then establish the Salat for them and let a faction of them stand with you. Stand, because it tells you the prophet is standing in the Salat himself. He is establishing the Salat for them and he is standing. Chapter 62 verse 11, he's establishing the Salat. He was standing when they left him and went back to their entertainment and business. Chapter 3 verse 39, Zechariah was standing. The hypocrites among the Quran alone followers, they say, "Oh, there is no act of standing in the Salat. The Salat, there is no standing." Yes, that's somebody is asking me. Liman Imrana is saying, "Babashuaib, but you still have to perform your ablution before praying while sitting or writing, right?" Yes. This is what the command from God in Quran chapter 5 verse 6. Always this has to be done before you approach the Salat, right? So God says, "Ya ayyuhallazina amanu iza kuntum ila salat faghusuluhum wujuhakum wa aydiyakum ila al-marafiq wa umsahu bi ru'usikum wa arjulakum ila al-ka'bayn." That is Quran chapter 5 verse 6. Right? Now, some people can be in a situation or in a type of sickness that they are not supposed to let water touch them. We have people who are in that kind of sickness, that water is not supposed to touch them. So there's another option. You can find a clean sand. to use it for tayammum. We call it tayammum. You understand? We call it tayammum. It is in the context of this verse. If you go downwards here, you use what? Then aim at a nice field and wipe with your faces and your hands. You understand? Here. So some people who are in that type of sickness and then water cannot touch them, you have an option of something else. But then the act of going for the salat, it is mandatory for a believer to actually wash up before the salat. Or you who have believed, when you get up for the salat, the litany, then wash your faces. When you get, it's a command. When you get up, you know, I hear some believers who say, oh, what if I already have ablution for a long time and I'm waiting for another salat? No, don't do that. God gave the instructions. When you get up for the salat, you have to do the washing. So whenever there's time for salat, do the washing before you go. Don't say, oh, I already have ablution for this salat, so I'm going to continue. No, it's not advisable. Always do a new ablution before you go. Right? So now let's go to the next evidence. So we see clearly there is an act of standing in the salat. There is an act of standing in the salat. So now we are going to go to the next evidence to see the act of reciting the verses in the salat. We recite verses, but we are reciting it to ourselves, not to God. It's only when we are invoking, we are supplicating. That's when we are talking to God. But the verses, it is a message from God to us. So you are reciting the verses to yourself or you are reciting to your congregation. You are not reciting the verses to God. But we have verses in the Quran which are supplications that can be recited back to God because it is a supplication. For instance, Quran chapter 1 verse 1, it is Fatiha. You use it to address God directly. Quran chapter 3 verse 26 to 27, it is a supplication. You can use it to address to God. Quran chapter 39 verse 46, right? Let me confirm. Chapter 39 verse 46, yes, can be used to address to God directly. You understand? There are several verses in the Quran you can use. Quran chapter 23 verse 97 to 98. You can use those verses to address to God. So we have a lot of supplication in the Quran. You can use that to address God. But when it comes to verses which has a context with message, you are actually giving it to the congregation. Okay. So now, we have seen the act of standing in the salat. Let's go and see the act of reciting the verses of God and prostration. Now, out of those people who claim they are Quran alone followers, there are some hypocrites and ignorant ones who don't even know how paragraph and context works. They don't seem to understand that there is act of recitation, standing, recitation, and prostration in salat. They refuse to do all this. They say the standing is metaphorical. The recitation, I didn't hear them say metaphorical. The prostration, they say, is metaphorical. You have to just submit, they say. And up to now, I don't know how these following closely people submit to the verses of God. I don't know how they do that. So we can only submit to the verses in the evening and in the morning and evening. Is that it? Hey. Anyways, Quran chapter 19, verse 58. I'm going to read up to verse 59. Out of their ignorance, they don't seem to understand that prostration has been mentioned in the same context with salat. I just took you to Quran chapter 4, verse 102. Now I'm coming to Quran chapter 19, verse 58. I'm going to read up to 59 to show you that in the same context, it mentions sujood and it mentions salat. Because they don't study the book, they don't know. Sujood and salat came in the same context. So let's check. So now, if you start from chapter 19, verse 58, if you like, read from above, it's telling you the story of the prophets and the messengers of God. So now coming down to 58, it says, those are the ones whom God had favored among the prophets from the descendants of Adam and of those we transported with Noah and of the descendants of Abraham and Israel. Then he says, and of those we guided and chose. When the verses, listen, when the verses of the gracious were recited to them, they fell down, harru, in prostration. Now, among the hypocrites, among some of the Quran alone followers, they will now again tell you there is harru, is metaphorical, whilst the context is clearly showing you there is a physical act. They reject sujud, they reject harru, they said it is baseless. So let's go ahead and check the word har. The word har, what does it mean? This is the Arabic.fi. I'm going to show you the root word of the word har. The word harru or harra. It comes from the letters ha, ra, and ra. So kharara. Kharara. Now this is the meaning. It means to collapse. You see kharra here. Har. It means to collapse, to fall down. That is the meaning of the word har. Right? Kharra. To fall down in prostration. Because God is talking to people who possess intelligence, so that you know the act of prostration. So that's why he mentioned the act of falling down. You understand? Kharra. To drop down, to fall down. Okay. So now, check here. This is the word kharra. Now, I put the verse on the screen to show you something here. In this verse, you see the word here, kharru, is in the plural form because both the prophets and the messengers do the same. You understand? It is talking about, in this context, it is literally talking about falling down in prostration. But one, because these people don't study Arabic, they don't understand Arabic. They go with translations, create their own meanings, and then they say, no, it's not literally about falling down. Then it's about literally what? Then what is it about? Flying? Okay. So when the verses of God are recited to them, they fall down in what? Prostration and what? Bukiya, whilst weeping. Now, it's tell you how they're showing the submission to the words of God. This is what Salat is about. Now here, when the verses of the gracious were recited to them, they fell down in prostration and weeping. Now, we are going to continue the context. Then we are going to see, is it about Salat or not? So, verse 59, then it says, but the successors who came after them, after who? The prophets. Do you see the context? They lost the Salat, the litany. This litany you just saw, the act of reciting the verses from standing, then you fall down in prostration to show your submission, meaning in prostration, because prostration is the act of showing your submission. It's just like when you go to a king and you want to show your respect, your submission, you bow down, or you understand, obeisance. That is showing your submission. We call it prostration. You understand? Just like the parents of Joseph did to him in Quran chapter 12, verse 100, to show their submission. That is the prostration. You do it when you are showing your submission to another, entity who is greater than you. Now, we can see clearly when the verses of God are recited to them, they fell down in prostration. That is the act of to show their submission. Falling down, that the arrogant ones among us, they say, no. It's not talking about going down for God. They say it's baseless. We are not going to do it. We are not going to pray to God. We are not going to bow down and prostrate to God. It's an abomination. You are going to hell when you do that for God. Hey! You don't worry. The witches in your village will get you. You will pray to God by force. You saw Maverick in the video. He says he prays. Listen to Maverick.
Salah mean to you?
Pray to Allah, innit? When you pray Fajr, when you pray Salah, this is our farz, yeah? As a
That's what we've
Muslim.
been taught, yeah.
Yeah, this is farz,
But he
yeah?
doesn't
No,
pray.
that's what you've been taught.
You pray? You pray?
I pray, yeah.
The same way as I pray?
Meu grocery.
Yeah, so here's your maverick. He prays. I wonder how he prays, though. He say he pray, yes. Okay, so we see in Quran chapter 19, verse 58 to 59, the context clearly reveals salat and prostration in the same context, in the same paragraph, as a matter of fact. The same context, the same paragraph. But the ignorant and hypocrite among us will still tell you, no need to prostrate to God. It's not talking about physical prostration. Hey, no problem. Let's go to the next verse. Let's go to the next verse. Quran chapter 17. I'm going to read verse 107 up to 111. Let's go and check the context. You are going to see prostration and salat in the same context and in the same paragraph. Now I read. Kul aminu bihi awla tu'minu. Then he says, Inna allazina utul ilma min qablihi iza yutula alayhim yakhiruna lil azkani sujjada. He says, say, believe in it or do not believe. Indeed, those who were given the knowledge before it, when it is recited to them, they fall down to, not upon, they fall down to, not upon, to the chins in prostration, because God wants to tell every intellectual person listening that this is a physical act. You have to do it by going down. Now, when God says to the chins, it doesn't mean on the chins. I see some ignorant and naive people saying on the chins. You are a foolish person to think like that. God never said go on the chins. You go to the chins, because when you prostrate, let me show you how it works. When you prostrate, your chin is going down also, but you are not prostrating on your chin. I've seen some ignorant and naive people saying that, where does it show you how to prostrate? Are you a fool? God asked you to eat. Show me in the Quran, where did God tell you how to eat? Show me, I dare you. God asked you to eat in the Quran, right? Come and show me how God asked you how to eat. Did he say take the food with your hands like this and put it here? Where did he show you? God is not talking to fools. He knows the wise people know what to do. That is why Quran is talking to intelligent people. You tell intelligent person prostrate, he knows what you mean. You tell an intelligent person eat, he knows what you mean. You tell an intelligent person drink, he knows what you mean. Are you getting my point? So what some of the foolish people among the hypocrites or the no ritual group are saying is, oh, where does it tell you to prostrate on your forehead? Are you mad? Prostration, you need to be told how prostration is done. But the reason why God mentioned this act is to let you, the ignorant ones or the arrogant ones, to know it's a physical act people do by going down. Because when I put this head down here, like this, my chin is down with me. But because you are arrogant, you never want to prostrate to God. So what you do is not literal. It is non-literal, it's metaphorical. Yeah, it is metaphorical. No, I don't need to put my head down for God. You go and meet your maker. Right? You go and meet him. You go there, you go explain tire. You go explain. You see. So this is the verse. Say, believe in it or do not believe in. Indeed, those who were given the knowledge before it, when it is recited to them, listen, before it, they fall down. You see the act of yakhiruna, harru. They fall down to the chins, because when you fall down with your head, the chins follow you down. But some naive and ignorant people, I dare you, call me. They will say, oh, it says fall on the chins. Where does it say on? Where does it say Allah? Where does it say alal azkani? They fall down to the chins in prostration. Now let's continue the context. Out of their naivety, they say you will not find the word salat with the word sujud in the same context or in the same paragraph. Let's check. We have found the word sujud. We have found the word kharru, meaning to fall down. Let's continue the context. Verse 108. And they say, glory be to our Lord. Indeed, the promise of our Lord is effective. And we can see even invocation. There's a dua again in 108. Let's continue 109. And they fall down to the chains, weeping, and it increased them in humility. Because they have that humility for God, they actually show their submission by falling down in prostration. Verse 110. Then now God asked the messenger, say, invoke the God or invoke the gracious. Whichever you invoke, thence to him belongs the best names. Then he says, and do not be loud with your salat, that is the litany, nor be silent with it, but seek a way in between. You see the context? From 107 coming down, it mentioned prostration, it mentioned salat, and it mentioned dua. So your salat is encompassed with reciting verses of God, and you have dua inside, and you have supplication, and then you have, you name it. But still, the hypocrites among the Quran alone followers, some of them will say, no need to pray to God. No need to contact God. No need to prostrate to God. What? No need to prostrate to God? Hey! Okay. Then verse 111. God asked the messenger and say, he's telling him what to say during the salat again. Praise be to God who does not have a son, nor does he have a partner in the dominion, nor does he have a guardian out of humiliation. Then what? And magnify him with magnification. So when you say Allahu Kabir, God is great or God is magnificent, that is enough. That is magnification. Do you see the context coming from 107 downwards? In the same context, you have sujud with salat, and you have the recitation of verses. Okay. Now, still, the hypocrite will tell you, no. That is not in the Quran. There is no standing. There is no prostration. There is no reciting of verses in the salat. We see all. There is no dua. We see all. No problem. Then again, ladies and gentlemen, when I take you to Quran chapter 4, verse 102, let me show you this verse. You see that consistently, the salat is with standing and prostration. It goes in the same context, standing and prostration. Then in a broader context, it tells you about the recitation of the verses of God. Now check here. In Quran chapter 4, verse 102, and when you, Muhammad, are among them, then establish the salat for them and let a faction of them stand with you. Now, there's a context, but this context, people will say this is during war. It never says during war in the verse. When you start from verse 101, does it mention the word war? There is no war there. But the people will say war. Where did you find the word war in that verse? I don't see it. Yeah, Naba Hussein, I see you. Salam. So let's start from 101. And whenever you travel through the land, listen what God says. There is no blame on you in case you shorten from the salat, from the litany. If you fear that those who disbelieve may rout you. Indeed, the disbelievers are clear enemies to you. That is, if you fear. It never said there's a war. If you believers travel through the land, there's no blame on you to shorten from the salat. If you fear that those who disbelieve may rout you, meaning they will disturb you. If you fear, it never mentioned war there, but let's go. When you go to 102, then it says, and when you are among them, then establish the litany. Then it says, for them. and let a faction of them stand with you. So Mr. Magamind will say schooling session. So this is a schooling session when they are standing with the prophet. So he's standing. Why not sitting? So they have to stand, right? Stand with you and let them take their weapons. Verse 101 is telling you, if they fear that the disbelievers may disturb them, may rout with them. So in order to have this security with them, another group has to take their weapons. Then he says, and when they have prostrated, because the context comes from other verses. Chapter 19, verse 58 to 59 shows you how the previous prophet did their salat. Quran chapter 17, verse 107 up to 109 showed you how the previous believers did their salat. It is the same aspect of standing and reciting the verses of God and prostrating. But here God was shortening the notion, not to prolong every time repeating the same thing. So now he mentioned the act of standing. Since he has mentioned the subject, which is salat, you already know what salat is about. It's the remembrance of God. It's the remembrance of God. That is what salat is about. So now in this chapter 4, verse 102, then he says, and when they have prostrated, sajadu, then let them be behind you. Meaning this group who stood with him, after they have prostrated, now they should go behind, because they are going to take their weapons and guard the other group. Let them be behind you, and let the other faction who have not prayed, who have not done their salah, come and let them what? And let them pray with you. Do you see the act of praying? And let them take their precaution. That is, after they prayed, let them take their precaution and their weapons. And those who disbelieve wish you will neglect your weapons. Because the disbelievers wish the believers will not take their weapons whilst they are doing salat. So God asked the prophet to make the group into two. One group is guarding, then the other group is praying with the prophet. When the other group praying with the prophet, they are done praying, they will now take their weapons and go behind and guard. Whilst the other group who have not prayed will now come. So hypothetically, we can use the word raka'ah that, the prophet used 2 raka'at for 2 groups. 1 raka'at for the first group, 1 raka'at for the second group. But the word raka'at is not in the Quran. But hypothetically, when people want to say raka'at, the maximum used in the Quran that the prophet ever did was 2 for 2 groups. So meaning when 1 raka'at is done for 1 group is enough. Are you getting my point? Good. So this is the act of salat in the Quran. Goes with standing, reciting the verses of God. Then you prostrate by showing your submission to God. That is it. Then you do your supplication and whatever you want to tell God. You tell God. So I gave you Quran chapter 19, verse 58 to 59. Quran chapter 17, verse 107 up to 111. Quran chapter 4, verse 102. You see it. Now I'm taking you to Quran chapter 3, verse 113. In 3, verse 113, check this verse. God says, they are not equal. Among the people of the book is a group of people who stand. So the word qa'imatun, they stand in the night. Huh? Yes. Naba, the first group, they prostrated with the prophet. Yes. They are not equal among the people of the book. There is a group of people who stand reciting the verses of God. So do you see the act of standing and then reciting the verses of God? Do you see it? Then he says what? During the night, and they prostrate. You understand? They prostrate by showing their submission to God. They go down to actually adore God. It's not a new concept. It's not a new concept. Do you see? Among the people of the book, they stand reciting the verses of God and prostrate. That is the act of salat there. Then again, I take you to Quran chapter 32, verse 15 to verse 16. Let's go. Chapter 32, verse 15 We read up to verse 16. Listen what God says. He says, "Innama yu'minu bi ayatina lazina iza zukkiru biha." Then he says, "Kharru sujjadan wa sabbahu bihamdi rabbihim wa hum la yastakbirun." Only those who believe in our verses are those whom, when reminded thereby, they fall down in prostration and glorify with praise of their Lord, and they are not arrogant. The arrogant ones among us now, they refuse to prostrate to God. They refuse to praise God in prostration because they are arrogant. Do you get the point? Only those who believe in our verses are those whom, when reminded thereby, they fall down, kharru, to fall down, in prostration by showing their submission to God, and glorify with praise of their Lord, and they are not arrogant. Who do you find? The arrogant ones, telling you no ritual, no need to prostrate to God. Let's continue the context. Verse 16. Their sides abandon the beds to invoke their Lord. You understand? This act of Salat, their sides, it's abandon their beds in order to invoke their Lord in fear and ambition. And from what we have provided them, they disperse. We still have arrogant people. They still don't want to bow down to God. No prostration to God. No need to invoke God. Hypocritically, they are going around telling the mushriks, yeah, we pray. Yes, we pray. Then again, that is Quran chapter 32, verse 15 to verse 16. So the act of standing, reciting the verses, and prostrating is found in the Quran. The main essential part of Salat is the remembrance of God. Now, what these people normally do is, they will tell you Salat is the act of just doing duty, just doing righteous work, following closely, connection. I don't know if it is connecting electricity. But ladies and gentlemen, what you don't realize with these people, when God is clearly telling us in Quran chapter 53, verse 62, check what God says. Chapter 53, verse 62. This is what God says. God says, "Fajjudu lillahi wa abdun." Therefore, make obeisance, prostrate to God and worship. These people will not prostrate to God and they will not worship God. No, they don't. They say you don't need to worship God. Now, yes, some of the people among the Quran alone followers, they say no need to worship God. God doesn't need your worship. That's what they say. After God says, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. Quran chapter 51, verse 56. But because they want to neglect the aspect of worship, then they say, oh, we are only here to serve God. We don't need to worship God. Then we go again. In Quran chapter 22, verse 77. Then he says, "Ya ayyuhallazina amanu, arka'u wajjudu wa abdu rabbakum." Then he says, waf'alu khayra la'allakum tuflihun. He says, "Oh, you who believe, bow down, prostrate, and worship your Lord, and do good, perhaps you will succeed." We have the ritualistic aspect, then we have the act of doing good. So it is not only about being righteous, it is about connecting, having that connection with God, meaning you have that ritual aspect with God. Are you getting my point? So it is not only about doing good. This is why when you read this verse, "O you who believe, bow down, prostrate, and worship God, your Lord, and do good." So your act of devotion to God is not only about just bowing down, prostrating to God. No. It's about your righteousness, being good also. Then it says, perhaps you will succeed. So it is a combination of both. Don't let any ignorant person out there tell you now, there's no act of ritual in the Quran. There's no act of, no. I dare them. Babashuaib is available. Let them call if they have balls. Most of them don't have balls. They are keyboard warriors. So let them stick to the keyboard, no problem. Then the last verse is Zechariah in Quran chapter 38, verse 24. We saw Zechariah actually bowing down in genuflection. That is to genuflect. He actually what? Fell down in genuflection. So this is the verse. It says, he, David, said, he has certainly wronged you by demanding your ewe to his ewes. For indeed, many of those who associate do encroach on each other, except those who believe and do good deeds, and they are rare. And David thought that we were testing him, so he sought the forgiveness of his Lord and fell down in genuflection and repented. So the word in Arabic used here is وَظَنَّ دَاوُودٌ أَنَّمَا فَتَنَّاهُ. Then he says what? فَاسْتَغْفَرَ رَبَّهُ وَخَرَّ رَاكِعًا وَأَنَابَ. So he says here, so he sought the forgiveness of his Lord and fell down in what? Genuflection and what? Repented. So here, if you ask the no ritual group again, did actually David, did he fell down here in genuflection? Is it metaphorical? So there's no act of harra, falling down? Hey, so everything is metaphorical in the Quran. Yes, the no ritual group, this is how they are. Everything in the Quran is metaphorical to them. Everything. Nothing is physical in the Quran. So the last verse I'll quote before I open the phone lines, if you're willing to call, that is, we are talking about righteousness. If you go to Quran chapter 2, verse 44. In Quran chapter 2, verse 44, are you commanding the people to righteousness? The word birri, righteousness, while forgetting what? Yourselves. And you recite the book because you get the righteousness from the book that you have to practice. Now it says, will you then not reason? Will you then not reason? Now this is what people fail to realize. The act of establishing Salat, it's included in the package of righteousness. I'm going to show you the package. Now check the package here. Quran chapter 2 verse 177. In Quran chapter 2 verse 177, this is the package of righteousness. Here, God says, Al-Birra, righteousness is not to turn your faces towards the east and the west, but righteous is one who believes in God, the last day, the angels, the book, and the prophets, and gives money upon love for it to the relatives, the orphans, the poor people, the wayfarer, the beggars, and for the slaves. And they establish the Salat, that is the litany, you see, and give the charity. And they fulfill their agreement whenever they make an agreement. And they are patient in misery, adversity, and in times of fear. Those are the ones who are truthful, and they are those who are the pious. So you see the list of righteousness. Salat is included in the righteous act because you have that you're praying to God, right? You need to remember God. The ones who are telling you there's no ritual aspect of the Salat, they have no connection with God whatsoever. I'm serious. They live their lives like atheists. Do you know atheists? And atheists don't give a damn about God. They just live their life anyhow. That is how the no ritual group, that's how they live their life. They don't give a damn. There's a ritual aspect of serving God, and then there's a righteous deeds where you do your good deeds aspects. These people only base it in just the physical, they say they do good deeds, but then they forget the ritual aspect. That's a problem. So the last verse I'm quoting is Quran chapter 3, verse 92. In Quran chapter 3, verse 92, this is what it says. It says, you will never attain righteousness, al-birra, until you disburse from what you love. And whatever you disburse of anything, then indeed God is aware of it. So you can see, being good to humanity, helping people around you, it is what is classified as the main righteousness. Because God says you will never He used the word lan, not lam. He used the word lan. Lan is never. You will never attain righteousness until you disperse from what you love. And whatever you disperse of anything, then indeed God is aware of it. You understand? So doing the act of righteousness by helping other people around you is more valuable to God than any other thing. So humanity comes first before your act of rituals or anything. So we are not saying don't be good to people or be good among human beings, but you have the ritual connection where you have the ritual aspect of getting your bond with God. Understand this point. So ladies and gentlemen, for those who watch the lecture from beginning, I gave you the breakdown notion of understanding the ritualistic aspects that actually transpired during the times of the prophets, and it is not a new thing. There's the standing, there's a recitation, there's invocation, there's prostration in the Salat. These forms, yes, the prophets did it. As a matter of fact, all the prophets did it. The evidence is there in the Quran. You doing it now, you do no wrong. Don't let any foolish person out there mislead you or deviate you with their opinions. Most of them have never even sat down to study the Quran in its unique form, in Arabic form. What they do is they rely on translations, and then they come up with their own opinions and their meanings to words. Can they do that with English language? No. Can they do that with another language? No. It is only the Quran they want to play with. Give you words anyhow, following closely, connection, duty. I don't know where they are borrowing these meanings from, but be careful. Seriously. If you think you can stand the test of time, you think Salat means duty, you think Salat means connection, you think Salat means following close, I dare you, call me right now. I'm putting my number on the screen. Call me right now and prove me wrong. Don't be a keyboard warrior, for God's sake. This is babashuaib. I dare you. Call me right now before I go to TikTok and prove me wrong whatever I've said today. Prove me wrong. This is my number on the screen. +358 466 803144. For the keyboard warriors, this is your moment of truth. Keyboard warriors, please do some justice and call me. I'm waiting. Yes, Shia are non-Muslims. Kindly call yourself. Call right now. The number is on the screen. You say I'm talking to myself, right? No problem. Call. Let's see how much balls you have. If you have knowledge, call me and prove your logic. Let's see. Kindly call. Please don't be cowards in the comment section. Please call me. And let's see if you can stand the test of time. You're following closely your duty, your how their connection. You prove to correctional officer today where you got that nonsense from. I'm waiting. Call me right now. Because if I have to leave in 10 minutes to TikTok, then that actually explains you don't have the balls. You are just barking like parrots in the comment section. That's all you can do. I'm waiting. Oh. I'm waiting. Don't let me feel so comfortable. Please, just call to embarrass me. So far as you not call to insult me, like the way the Mega Mind did, fine. If you are going to be respectful, make sure you prove everything you say. I dare you. Let's see if you last 10 minutes. These guys are just petty for nothing. I just waiting. Please don't waste my audience time. Let's listen to Maverick for a while. Salat means connection.
5. Let's start with that one. We have recite what is. Let me take the Recite what is revealed to you of the scripture and observe the Salah. Recite what is revealed to you of the scripture and observe or uphold or establish the connection. The word Salah is connection. That part is, there's nothing ambiguous about that. You can even Google it.
He said we can even Google it. We exposed this liar. He's a fraud. We can Google it. We exposed you, liar. He even prays. Let's see the video. He prays.
Salah mean to you?
Pray to Allah, innit? When you pray Fajr, when you pray Salah, this is our farz, yeah? As a
That's what
Muslim.
we've been taught, yeah.
Yeah, this is farz,
But he
yeah?
doesn't
No,
pray.
that's what you've been taught.
But he doesn't pray.
You pray?
I pray.
The same way as I pray?
Remembrance.
I want people to understand this. When people are in the comment section, typing is cheap. Talking is cheap in the comment section. It is when people come in reality, then they realize, oh shit, this is different. I need to explain this. I need to explain that. I need to answer this. I need to answer that. You understand? So, look, I keep advising people, when you are in the comment section, don't think it's just cheap, because buying data and typing is very, very cheap, to be honest. You can type any gibberish you want in the comment. It is when you come in reality, especially to meet the correctional officer, you know what I'm doing is not a joke. When I put you in the tight corner, wallahi, wallahi, you regret ever being in the comment section and doing cheap typing. Anyways, I've done 3 hours on my YouTube, Facebook. I don't want to prolong the program. I'm going now on TikTok. Kindly join me on TikTok. You go explain, Taya. Now he's in the comment section explaining himself again. Hey, Max. Okay. Iyad says, Baba, I will come back to debate you. No problem. Go and prepare. If you like, add Mega Mind to your group and come. Max says, I don't regret anything, Baba. But okay, I'm not. No problem. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, this is Correctional Officer Baba Shuaib. I've done 3 hours. It is enough. I'm going to TikTok now. I think I might be there for 1 hour or so before I go. Right? I don't want to stay too much because I might, it's... So, thank you for your time. I appreciate your presence. Kindly rewatch the program to learn from the evidences I've given. And the things I give, I only give things that I can prove, I say and prove. I'm not here to play with people's conscience. I don't come here and say no ritual, no this, and when I'm asked a question, I'll be stammering and so on. Baba Shuaib, I do live sessions. I allow people to ask me questions, and I'm willing to do the same to other people. If you come, I'm not only here to answer questions. I can ask you questions also. And if you're coming to me and you are not prepared, seriously, you are going to mess up yourself, to be honest. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is Baba Shuaib, the Correctional Officer. I'm bringing the topic to an end. We meet again, hopefully next week. But if you want to enjoy the show, kindly join me on TikTok. Yeah, Baba said, thank you very much. Nara Power, thank you very much. We have, hey, brother Khalil Ibn Bilal, salam to you, peace to you. Thank you for the gift earlier. You sent me the gift on YouTube. S. Faraj, thank you very much. I appreciate the support. Thank you all. Zaid Yasir, he says, thank you, Baba, for increasing my certainty. Hey, at least following closely, people, eh? Yeah, Tom, peace to you. The calls only on WhatsApp. Yes, I only open on WhatsApp call session. I'm going to TikTok. Anybody who has TikTok, you can join me. Let's have a discussion, right? Dickie Baird says, God bless, nice discussion, peace. Thank you. I appreciate the support. Kindly rewatch the program. It's 3 hours. I don't know if I might trim the program down, but kindly watch so that you can benefit. I think the last 2 call sessions took a lot of time. Usually, I don't want my lectures to be so long. People complain that it's too long to watch. But I know people who are willing to learn and study, they will sit down and watch. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This is Correctional Officer Baba Shuaib. Till we meet again next week. If you're willing to have fun, join me on TikTok. Let's have fun. So far as the mushriks and the following closely people would join me there. Let's have fun. Some people have actually asked questions. I didn't get the time to go through your questions, but I wish I could do. But thank you, S. Faraj, for the gift, the super sticker. Mr. Cruising Tooth says, in Quran, you have stand, bow, prostrate, ablution, specific time, recitation, group prayer, dua, examples, everything, mega mind, Kufi is too tight. Then we have Omar Sataur. Thank you for the super sticker. Thank you. Yes, I appreciate the support. Till we meet again. This is where I bring the topic to an end. You are just watching Correctional Officer. Thank you for your time. JS. Peace to you all. Peace.